Someone say party hat? Did someone say party hat? Because, you know, I'm having problems with the party hat. Never mind, I will take the party hat off. Hold on, they can't hear you. Darn it. Hi, everybody.
Well, now I'm unmuted. I can say that I don't think that's a hat.
It wasn't a hat.
Like a hat. How are you all doing, folks?
I'm very, very good.
But it wasn't a sock either, and nor was it a herring. So it was somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Pseudo's looking confused. Hello, world. How are we all doing? Hello, and welcome to what is surprisingly and amazingly show number 100.
Well, for MMO Buff as a whole, this is episode 31 for MMO Buff podcast. Don't confuse everybody. So, hello, everybody. Yes, as has been said, this is literally our 100th episode on MMO Buff. This covers the variety of shows that we have. And for those of you who are wondering, we are up to 6 shows. 7 if you count our YouTube only show, known as the MMO Buff Perspective. So,
we wouldn't like to be bored and not have enough to do now, would we?
Well, I was just thinking to myself, you know, we've had 100 shows. How many have I been on? Well, it's probably easier to count how many I have not been on. And I think I'm up to something like maybe 8 that I haven't been on. And poor Mizpah, he's still trying to get well from being ill.
We've just about got rid of it. It's gone enough.
Yes.
So, folks, Pseudo,
yes,
you had something you wanted to talk about before we dig into the world of the topic.
I absolutely do. First off, I want to thank, and as I hit mics, I'm going to be animated today because I'm really excited. So if my hands start to do weird things like turn into bunnies and walk across the screen, I do apologize. But I am incredibly thankful to every single one of you who has stuck around, even those of you who are new who are just finding us. And I love when we get comments. I love when people get in touch with us, give us their opinions on things, because the reality is, no matter what opinion we have, someone's going to argue with us or disagree with us, or someone's going to have a completely different point of view, or in some cases, even the same point of view. But I love debate. I love discussion, which is why we do the show that we do and why Mizpah and I argue as much as we argue, because it's done with love, because he's always wrong. He needs to understand this. But anyway. Hey.
One day Pseudo will learn, but, you know, between you and me, that might take some time.
Hey, he's the stubborn one. He's the stubborn one. But anyway, we have had, in the past couple of months, someone has started, they're unable to show up and actually watch us live. But they pretty much watch every single episode that we put out on YouTube, because we do put all our shows up on YouTube for you to watch. And this one individual has left us novel after novel of comments. And I'm like, one of these days, I have got to get all of these comments together and just, like, attack them. And believe me, we're going to, because we are definitely going to be getting... I want to get this guy in this show, but I don't think they want to be on the show. I've asked them, and they're like, nah, I want to take time to formulate my thoughts and then give you my opinions. So what I'll probably do is we may end up having a show specially dedicated to their walls of questions, text, and opinions. But because of that, I just wanted to take a moment and say to Nara Shreth, thank you so much. Your comments have inspired show ideas. Your comments are one of the reasons why we do the shows that we do. So your novels, believe me, I read them, and most of the team does too. And just seriously, thank you.
And there will be a show at some point called Many Comments. Handle it.
Many comments, handle it. Yes, I guess we could definitely do that on a show at some point in time. But yes, I definitely wanted to throw that out there. And also, hello to you all. Hello, Meluist. Hello, Robots Hate Me. Hello, Lonely Ruby. Hello, Avid Guru, Gothic Slicer, Raisman, Aussie, Rodar. Hello, everybody.
You do realize you're supposed to do all of the viewers in one breath.
All of the viewers?
Otherwise it's cheating.
You want me to do all of the viewers in one breath? Okay. Hello, Harsey, Mizpah, myself, Anti-Snow, Avid Guru, Beast to Creed, Aussie, Gothic Slicer, Jaredar, Chaotic, Lonely Ruby, Meloist, Memory Dump, Mitchell, Raisman, Robot Hates Me, Screenager, Slack, Sulico, The Dist, and Vegaden. There will be more joining. There will be more joining, but hey,
indeed.
I got the lungs for it. I can do it.
Excellent. So, what are these lungs of yours going to be talking about today, Pseudo?
Everything that I could possibly do to drive you insane. Actually, no. That's not the point of this show.
Is the show long enough for that?
Actually, it doesn't take you that long to drive, or it doesn't take me that long to drive you insane. We've got that kind of relationship.
Easy.
Exactly. It's easy. I just have to mention one thing and off you go. But yes, so tonight's show, in case people haven't noticed, there's been a lot of patches. And this makes no difference whether we're talking single-player games and like your 4X genres, or the single-player games that you get on Steam or in Origin, or any of the variety of places that you can buy games today. Also in the MMO world, there's been a lot of patches. For example, there's the latest patch notes coming out for WildStar pre-release, etc. And I have seen a variety of responses to these patch notes. Everything from, okay, cool, that makes sense, to, I will kill you because you have changed something. Now, to have that kind of extreme means we obviously need to discuss something. So, yeah, patches. And as our show title points out, oh, great, a patch. Now, depending upon your inflection, that can be a good thing or bad thing.
Because it's worth bearing in mind that lots of things are patches. Ultimately, let's look at Warcraft. They're going into a new expansion. There's going to be I think it's going to be patch 6, they're going to call it. I think they're up to 5.4 something at the moment. And patch 6 is going to bring out the new expansion, so new stuff. But it's still a patch. Just a patch that also has a piece of boxed content associated with it. Yet you see continual iterations in the development of a game. MMOs are a classic for this. They're all patches. Yep. StarCraft community is running around because there's balance changes and testing, and yet again, they're patches. So a patch ultimately means there is change, and more importantly, that change is being communicated in some form. And I will get started later on people that make changes and don't communicate it, and I will kill you! But anyway.
And I thought I was the violent one in the team. I guess not.
But they do an interesting thing to players and consumers of content. As you've said, the inflection, it's, there's a patch.
Oh, great.
Oh, it's a patch.
Yeah.
Which one is it? And why? And we're trained to react to things in a certain way. But we can break patches down into a few core elements. We've got content patches, new stuffs. But new stuff sometimes means change. Change, well, we're not always good at change.
Well, there's multiple types of content. You know, You've got like new items, which could change the entire itemization system. You've got sometimes things like well, we'll get to that, but go ahead. But yes, content types. There are multiple types.
We'll drop into those quickly. Of course, you've got the balance patches, the ones where you go, the hunter's overpowered, nerf it, or the one where you say that you've got to change this RTS range for this unit, whatever it might be. And there's a pretty strong argument to say this is a constant, ongoing, iterative process in a game, along with the game's meta or whatever else. They're always going to be out there, and those people that actually bother to read them, go onto PTRs or the ILCAND or test things, tend to end up with a little bit of an advantage. Just saying. Of course, you've got bug fixes. Now, sometimes these are hot fixes that come in on the fly. Sometimes it's a problem, we can wait till we do the next release, we'll sort it out. But you'd better believe if it's something to do with the fact that I can push a button and duplicate all the gold in my inventory, it's going to get turned around pretty quick. Or at least it should be. Mentioning no names to a particular MMO not too long ago.
No.
And finally, you've got the UX UI patches, the design changes, the stuff all to do with the interface, the stuff between your brain, your fingers, and the character on screen. But all these things infer change. My throat's going again. All these things infer change in a voice that actually works. And we react badly to change. And we'll get back to that in just a moment. So the main thing we see is we see the rolling monthly patch, this content change patch. So all it means is we've got new stuff. There are changes. So why do people react so badly to it? Pseudo.
Oh, good grief. That's the thing. I mean, there is a couple of really easy reasons why people react so bad to patches. Sometimes people react bad because they're the ones who got hit with the Nerf bat, and they're like, well, that's just not fair. I was doing excellently well. Some people are the ones who are like, but that's just not fair. Some of the great ones. But the reality is it generally comes down to two things that influence how we react to patches. One is, are we comfortable with the game in the state that it's in? And some people get that way and are really comfortable with it. For example, I remember back in the day in World of Warcraft when rogues without any gear on whatsoever, using white weapons that they bought off a vendor, could pretty much demolish somebody in Silithus on a one-on-one PvP basis, and even sometimes a 2-on-1. And some people thought that was incredibly unfair. But those rogues were quite comfortable in their style of play. But in the end, it also comes down to the fact that, as we've had someone mention in chat, change can be good, change can be bad, and it's also how you take it. And this is where we come into, so there's a topic that we've been wanting to bring to MMO Buff for a very long time, but we've wanted to do it right, and to place it inside of topics that help us out. And that's sort of along the lines of the motivational development and drives of gamers, the developers, etc. And in our particular case today, things like cognitive bias, which in case if you were early to the show, you got to see that I asked everybody in chat, do you know what a cognitive bias is? And this is something we will tap into. But when it comes to patches, it's loss aversion. That is one of the things that triggers the biggest heated response to everything. Change is change, but how you react to it depends an awful lot upon your cognitive bias.
But let's back up there for just a second then and explore this idea of cognitive bias. What does it mean at the end of the day? Okay, human beings, allegedly all of us, are not actually machines. There is a biological element to our reasoning. Some of us more so, some of us less. I'm sure people will be quite quick to point out. And that means that it's pretty darn fallible. You know, human beings make mistakes. You just have to look around to realize that that's happening. We're not all running around in a game theory universe making optimal decisions, else the world would be a very, very different place, and probably quite a lot less fun as well, I hasten to add. So cognitive bias is the unconscious, automatic influence on human judgment and decision-making.
And there are a lot of them.
Fallible.
There are a lot of them.
In technical terms, it's classed as this wonderful term. It produces reasoning errors because we're not Spock.
They're basically things that influence irrational thought and irrational decision making. So, you know, for example, one of the most common cognitive biases that happens to be out there deals with people who try to find truth only in locations that prove them to be right. And the name of it literally just slipped my lips, or my brain, my lips. If it slipped my lips, I would have said it. But if you give me 1 second, I'll actually pull up what the actual term is. But that particular bias is incredibly common. People already have in their brain, this is the answer. So therefore, I'm going to, self-rationalization. I'm going to find proof of it. And believe me, with Google at your fingertips and the internet at your fingertips, you can pretty much prove anything.
And that is true. There's you can always prove pretty much most things. There was I watched a rerun the other day of an old TV series called Yes, Prime Minister. And for those that haven't seen it, it's hysterical. It's classic BBC British humour, but it requires a little bit of thought, which is what makes it so fun. And there was an episode devoted to statistics. The basic premise being that just simply work out what answer you want and then phrase the questions accordingly to get those answers.
Yeah.
Used and that's exactly what it's dealing with. How do you manipulate human beings into assuming or doing a certain thing? That's another form of cognitive bias. But let's just turn around full circle for a moment. Mm-hmm. And there's one thing that hits us as gamers whenever we look at change in games, which invariably comes around with patch notes and content updates and all these other things. As Screen pointed out, they're not the same thing. We'll come back to that in a minute. And that is loss aversion. So I'll give one simple example and I'll bounce back, Pseudo.
Okay.
So you've just walked outside and you turned left. You didn't want to turn right. Don't know why. You walked 17.5 paces down the street.
Okay.
There was a £50 note on the floor.
Ooh, £50? And for those of you who are in the United States, we're talking something like $75, $80. And for those of you in the euros, I think we're looking at something like 80 euros. I think. And
for those of you in Indonesia, that'll be 14,007,316 of whatever the local currency is.
And then if you're in the yen, okay, but sorry. You find monies.
You find monies and go, yay. And you look around and there's no old distraught grannies looking around for it, and there's no one there because there's nothing near the outside of your house. And so you're forced to pick it up. So, great. You've just won £50. So you put it in your pocket, and you go back to the house. And as you walk in the front door, you realise there was a hole in your pocket.
Dear Liza.
There's a hole in your pocket.
Oh,
and
no.
The £50 note has gone.
That is so unfair. That is not right.
And you look around.
That £50 was mine. It was mine.
It's not on the floor. And here's the thing. You find the £50 note. Yay, happy £50 note. You lose the £50 note. The negative reaction is much stronger than the positive reaction. And that is the classic descriptor for loss aversion. We are more worried about what we can lose, what we can lose out on, the negative effects, than we are of the net situation or the positive. Reality is, you had £50. You now don't have £50. You're no better off, and you're no worse off.
Yep.
But you aren't going to be left feeling that way.
No.
This is a classic for why when people see changes in games, they get more upset by, but now I only get 1 point of attack power per point of agility. Yes, that still hurts after all these years.
You still hurt from that nerf to the hunters, don't you?
And that just sums it up perfectly to the, and now we don't have to deal with lots of other stats, and other stuff is good, and weapons have been modified accordingly, and AP distribution on items has been modified accordingly. The rational part of our brain goes, well, this all makes sense, it all adds up. The irrational part says, I want my stuffs back. And it's a hard problem to fix. So what can you do as a dev trying to fix it?
Well, see, before I go into that, there's a couple of things I want to make certain that we bring up. We've had a show in the past, and if you haven't had a chance to see it, it is well worth watching, where we've discussed balance in games. And the reality is true balance is having imbalance in some way, shape, or form. Whether this means that the rogues are able to eat the heck out of clothies, and then the people who are plate wearers are ripped apart by spellcasters. There has to be some kind of slight imbalance, almost rock, paper, scissorish kind of triangle, even though you might have more classes in a game, in order for a game to actually be enjoyable. Otherwise, it's boring, stagnant, and not fun. So if you want to get into a topic about where balance needs to be brought in, you can look back at our previous episode on that. I don't want to dig too far into it, because that is a reality. Bias will happen because someone's going to get smacked upside the head, and that entire triangle or hexagon or dodecahedron is going to be mixed up and tilted into some kind of random direction. Now, based on having thrown that in there, what was your question to me?
So, you are a developer, Pseudo.
I am a developer.
You've just produced Great Game version 2.
Woo! Am I making money?
Not yet. You're working towards it.
Okay.
And I remember that I really should turn my phone on while live.
Yes!
So on that basis...
And here I am. I can tell you, I promise you, my phone is off.
No, I'm not about to answer this call now. Where was I again? Before my phone decided to...
I am not making money on Great Game version 2. I am not, but I have just released it.
But that's okay, because you found that one of the reasons why you weren't making money on Great Game version 2 was Great Game version 1.9. The rogues were overpowered. And anyone that didn't play a rogue felt shortchanged because they couldn't win.
Yeah.
So you basically put the rogues back on a par with the others. you release that information in your patch notes, thinking, great, all of the spellcasters and the plate wearers and the feather ticklers will be able to have a more balanced game. And so you communicate this in patch notes version 2. Now, how do you communicate this in such a way as to not get a negative reaction from the rogues that make up 99% of the player base?
Okay,
because
let's do this.
The path of least resistance.
Let's do this. Let's go through the different types and ways that you and I have seen patch notes be presented and beat the living bejeebus out of them in order to find the answer to this, because there is a really good answer to it. And you have to start off with the acknowledgement, no matter what you do in a patch, no matter how you present it, someone's going to get pissed because loss aversion will be triggered. You can't stop it. Someone is going to find it, and someone's going to go, well, fine, my pinky is no longer painted yellow. I'm pissed about this. For whatever reason, for some strange reason, people will always have it trigger. Not everybody, but there is a way to try to mitigate it. So let's start off with the first one. First one is we just release a patch. Tell no one, just say there's a patch. We don't tell anybody what's in it. We just go off and have yourself a good time. I have a feeling, based on the reaction that I'm seeing from Martin here, Miz is all like, really? Are you really going to do that? That is the worst thing you could do.
Yes, absolutely. There are those of us that like to understand how games work. There are those of us who write add-ons. There are those of us who have spreadsheets we lovingly polish every Thursday night before calculating our DPS. We like to know how things work.
Yeah.
Now, we know that we're not going to get the formulas from the devs, and nor should we. But I will argue pretty hotly that we do deserve to know if something has changed. If you have a certain build, and your build relies on, I don't know, let's say Spellslinger, Trigger Fingers, Wildstar, relies on that particular proc. Now, if they change the mechanics of that proc, isn't it good to know? So a patch note that just says, and this is not a dig at something that's happened, by the way, I'm just pulling random examples. A patch note that says, changes have been made to the procs for the following, blah, 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 is actually adequate. Not best, not great, but we know we have something to go and look at. A change note that says, rogues have had various itemization and abilities balanced to be more in line with other classes. That's not quite so useful, but at least if you're a rogue, you know that stuff's going on. Cue the forum debate as to what has happened. A patch note that says, here is version 2, doesn't make us very happy.
Fair enough. So that's one extreme. One extreme is just, hey, you've got a patch, congratulations, have fun. Another extreme is to release all of the information, all 733 pages of notes covering everything from formula changes to bug changes to the fact that you made a hexadecimal change on a color to the fact that you have redesigned a skin to have yellow stripes instead of purple stripes. Having something that literally floods everybody with all of the content information that has been changed. I have a problem with that.
I have less of a problem with that.
I don't have as much of a problem as the first one, but I still have a problem with that.
I don't necessarily have a problem at all. A lot depends on how the patch notes are put together, formatted, and presented.
We haven't touched that yet.
Format for the distribution of your patch notes, you can have 90 pages of A4. I do advise not putting them up in a photograph that won't blow up at high enough resolutions, because that's just annoying.
No offense, Carbine. Mizpah is just a little sore that his monitor didn't let him read the notes when the rest of us had no problem.
However, having a good format for patch notes means you can put tons of content out there. Now, you can make an argument. People don't really need to know that the hexadecimal version of the yellow color used on the yellow polka dot dress has changed. It's probably worthwhile to go to say various items have had cosmetic improvements.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even to say cosmetic improvements to weapons found in the blah blah zone tier 3, or to yellow polka dot dresses found in wherever you find yellow polka dot dresses. but changes that materially affect how people interact with something statistically or via a formula or via game mechanics do to me need detailing. Something visual, it's a point of reference, it's a preference. Whereas you can unequivocally say, using most number systems, 2 is greater than 1. You can't make that statement for yellow BB39CF versus yellow BB39CD. You can just state they're different. They don't affect a calculation, they affect a perception.
Well, see, again, that goes back to having a little bit of wording and moderation. However, that's still not going to solve the problem that you presented to me. It makes a difference whether I don't reveal the patch notes or I completely reveal the patch notes. There is still going to be a huge amount of rogues sitting there going, your great game V2 sucks.
True, but you can say there will be less, because there will be a percentage that are able to overcome their cognitive biases to a greater or lesser extent, who will then analyze it in greater detail and come to a considered opinion.
I think
I'm not saying it's an improvement.
It is an improvement. I wouldn't necessarily want to wager on the actual percentage improvement, because humans, as much as we try to fit them into boxes, we don't fit into boxes. I am sorry.
Chop them up very small.
You're a very scary man, and I don't know if I want to come over for dinner with you now. But anyway, so when it comes down to trying to minimize the impact of loss aversion on players, because the last thing I, as a developer, want to do is make my players suffer. I do not want my audience to suffer. I want everyone to have some kind of equal footing, equal ground, and enjoy themselves, because I firmly believe, and this is something that we've had in another episode where we were talking about, what does it take to produce an MMO? If you are a developer, you should be passionate about the type of game that you're making, because then you would be able to sit there and know, yeah, these people are going to get pissed. Now maybe we have to come out with some way to balance this and explain it in a manner that they will understand. And that's my next step. To me, if I needed to do something where, I know that my game 1.9 has been failing miserably because the rogues simply are just the pinnacle, the ultimate, the sitting at the top of the food chain. There is nothing that can combat them. They just eat everybody alive, and for some reason cut them up and put them into little boxes. If that happens to be the case, then I'm going to have to present the kind of solution that I've come up with to bring a new type of balance/imbalance into the game, to offer a new feel to the game by simply stating, if I don't make this change, there will be no game. There will be nobody else to fight against. It'll be rogue v rogue, and I am not making a roguelike. No offense, because roguelikes have absolutely nothing to do with rogues, but for some reason my brain decided to bring in the roguelike genre. And for those of you who like roguelikes, let me know, because a perspective may be coming on that. But anyway, so in this particular case, it's a matter of communicating. I don't have to necessarily sit there and go, yeah, you rogues are way overpowered. What I could simply state is, hey, I made a balancing mistake here. How many of us love it when a developer admits to making a mistake? I love it when a developer is not afraid to sit there and go, I am not the shiniest apple in the world. I have a few brown spots and maybe a worm. Be honest. If you've made a mistake, say so. So that right there is going to help out a lot. Because then
also needn't even be a mistake. It can often be, we implemented X because we wanted effect Y.
Yeah.
The numbers are now in. We haven't quite got effect Y yet, so we're going to make another change.
Working on it. But yes.
And you know what? That's not unreasonable. There is no magic wand for how players interact with the game.
No, there
isn't. It just ain't happening.
No, but if I start out by more or less, quote unquote, eating my words or stating that there is a problem here, I see what the problem is, and it was caused by a design choice that I and my team have made. We'll pretend that I'm independently making an MMO and able to do all of this stuff, so it's just me. So I screwed up, and here is the solution that we're going to try. Now, one of the few things that I've ever seen a game company state is that patch notes, or patches in general, are just iterations. What we've got here is not the end. This is our next attempt at getting things where we feel they should be. I'm not going to use the word balance because, in all honesty, true balance destroys games. Just going to say that right now. So,
Mostly.
Oh, it does. You and I will get into another debate and another show about balance. I can just see this coming. But yes, so communicating to them, these are the changes that are coming, and we're going to try them. We're going to see the impact, play to your heart's content, really beat it up, enjoy the game, let us know your thoughts.
So
that is how I would do, my opinion, the best way of trying to cause the least amount of loss aversion within my player base.
So let's start to break that down. So there's 2 or 3 things you can actually do to do with communicating information, and they're largely going to fall under the sort of sociological banner.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing you can do is you can be very inclusive in the process. And rather than just saying, we have reduced rogue spell power, I know it doesn't exist, I'm picking on purpose, by 13.7%, you can say, we have reduced rogue spell power by 13.7% to have the effect of insert target A, B, C. We will be continuing to monitor this to make sure that insert competing class does not suddenly become overpowered in insert PvP scenario.
Well, PvP v PvE is one of the biggest debates for why patch notes occur or patches occur. Not necessarily.
We'll that. But it's just saying we've made this change to this stuff to bring it in line with this stuff, and this is what we're going to be checking after we've made the change.
Yeah.
So you're giving people the whole picture. You're not leaving them to say, well, they clearly reduced rogue spell power because of the knife of Ubiji Flip Flip that a rogue can use that lets it cast this. And someone else says, no, they're reducing rogue spell power because developers got very confused, or whatever it is they might be. It removes the debate. You're giving the pre-situation, the what you're changing, and the what you're looking for. Now, it might mean that you can then disagree with that change. But no, the spell power was great, and the knife of Flip Flip was the best thing in the game, and this is why. But at least now you know what you are actually debating and talking about. You could actually have communication about it, rather than people ranting and railing and going off on tangents that are utterly irrelevant. So that's one.
There's a problem with that, though. I mean, let's say that we've decided here at Pseudo Enterprises, the game company bringing you the great game version 2.0. Let's say we've decided to take that approach, and we happen to know for a fact that this particular patch, it's just a simple patch. It's not a new expansion pack that brings box content or anything else like that. This is just a new patch to fix what we believe to be the problem is, and we know for a fact that this is 86 pages long. It includes bug fixes, it includes quest fixes, it includes NPC fixes, it includes some other random things that are going on, and it also, let's just say for sake, we have 8 classes in our game. Okay? How much time should a developer put to explaining every single one of those choices to ensure that everyone kind of gets the point? Or should it be really general? It
depends on the impact of the changes. The changes that put forward a negative change or a reduction need to be elaborated on.
Apparently our patches need hats, though.
Patches need hats.
Yes, I just have to throw that in there because for some reason I find it incredibly funny.
Well, of course. How else are we going to have hat notes?
I now lower my head in shame. Shame.
Anyhow.
So, yes, they are good wins.
The more controversial the perceived change, the more the reduction in stats, power, abilities, the more you say you could do this, then now you can't, the more you actually need to elaborate. Some changes, we have decreased the cooldown on your return to start location button for all classes. You don't need to elaborate on. People will go, yay, I can travel. No one's going to complain about it very much.
Oh, come on. We're talking. Very much. I'm going to say you need to be very careful with your choice of words. We are talking about a genre of human being that I label Just insert gamer. It makes a difference whether you play Facebook games, whether you play MMOs, whether you play first persons. It makes a difference. You have any kind of gamer attached to you, and you have an opinion, and your opinion matters, even though it may not be the overall accepted opinion. So even if you make that great change, if we now offer travel, I mean, look at the huge outcry of should we have flying mounts or not flying mounts?
Yes, but that's not the same.
It's not the same. I know. I'm just saying it makes no difference what you bring out and how you explain it. There is always going to be at least a few who will have an opinion where they will beat you up for it no matter what explanation you give.
We have reduced the cost of battery-powered herring in the main store.
That's going to completely screw up my ability to make battery-powered herring money.
They're not actually creatable by players. They're only introduced in the item shop in the game.
Yeah, but they're used to create those awesome fishing machines that we use to blow up stuff. So it's going to impact our gameplay. You have just made it easier for noobs to be able to do this when I have spent the past 3 years learning how to do it at an effective manner. How dare you?
We have now introduced battery-powered salmon for advanced players.
But see, that comes on at a later patch, doesn't it? It doesn't come out in the same patch. My point is, just pick the wording carefully, because there's always going to be an opinion.
Yeah, you can always find something, but some things, it's fair to say, generically, you can state, will be perceived by the majority of the player base as a positive. So you don't have to elaborate massively. It's still good to. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we have these funny things called websites. We can put patch notes on them. There's a search facility, usually. If not, there's one in your browser, or hit Control F, or Mac key F, or whatever random key you have on your Linux keyboards, F, or not F if you're typing in another language, but you get the point.
You mean find?
Yes.
He had to make that so hard, didn't he?
So, to be honest, I'm still coming back to there's no excuse not to provide more information. People can choose not to read it. Now, this is a way to do a very simple little technique. It comes from management reporting and everywhere else. You start with a summary. These are the big headlines. This is the one paragraph that explains the bulk of the intent of the whole patch. Now, page by page, here's the details. So the people that won't read 400 bullets can still read the summary. What happened? We balanced some classes to make them more effective in PvP. Okay, I know PvP, I don't care about that. Ooh, we released a new dungeon. Great, right, I'll log into game now. Some people, of course, will do the reverse. Ooh, new dungeon, irrelevant. Ooh, but look, balance notes. Ooh, rogue, let me go to that page. So,
I have to say, I'm finding it really weird that we keep picking on rogues.
They're my class of the week to pick on.
I want to pick on something else. I want to pick on something that casts spells.
I've already given the rogue spell power. What more do you need?
Plate armor.
I've just turned that off. I do wish it would stop ringing.
Strike 2 for the Mizpah. What happens when it's strike 3?
We'll find out, because they're going to ring back again so it's the same person twice. Especially as they know I'm online and on air, but that's another story.
But yes.
So yes, okay, so I've now got a ranged plate-wearing spell-casting rogue. Are we happy?
No.
That can fly.
Getting closer.
In stealth.
Getting closer.
But he's not available till the next patch. However...
You are evil! And we could even get into discussions about whether I need to pay for that, but that's a different topic. Anyway.
So, having been put totally off my stride, we've already worked out there's a number of things we can do to talk about the change, but the reality is changes need to happen. Gamers, I hate to say it, all of us, and I include everyone, we don't actually always know or like what's best for us whilst playing a game. I'm always going to turn around and go, nerfs to Hunter bad, increases to Hunter DPS output good.
Well,
tanks are always going to turn around and go, increased taunt good, less damage mitigation, bad. It's the nature of human beings, and we're back into a different sort of bias. People like what they do to be the top of the pyramid.
Well, there's that, but I want to bring up a very common statement that, interestingly enough, has really only just started to come around. Now, this is a statement that anyone who has done any kind of development, it makes a difference whether you've done game development or you have done application development or whether you make food for a living. It really doesn't make a difference. If you create something and other people consume it, more times than not, the consumer does not necessarily know the truth of what they need. They know what they want, but not what they need. And this is a very difficult, I guess you could say, strategy to attack from for anyone's purposes. If you are trying to make the very best souffle in the world, you as a cook probably knows the best ingredients that you can get your hands on to make the ultimate souffle, and you know the right type of oven you need, you know what latitude it needs to be at on the world, whether it needs to be, you know, up on a mountain or not. You could probably answer all those questions. And you could make the best because you know that's what it needs. It needs this type of ingredient at this temperature on this day of the week when the moon is at full, we'll just say. Okay.
If it's a souffle, you always need a lot of luck as well. But anyway.
Yes. So you create what is needed to create that ultimate souffle. You pass it over to me. I take a bite out of it and I look at you and go, that was disgusting. That was not what I wanted.
That's all right. We'll replace your patch notes in your taste buds in an upcoming patch.
Great. Somehow, even though Mizpah started out by saying that we weren't robots, I apparently have robotic taste buds that can be replaced. I wonder how they talk and if they're neural networked and AI'd.
But there's an interesting point you raised there. And that is the fact that, you know, a gaming system is the interaction between lots of people, lots of roles, lots of different things. Unless you're playing a game where the whole community bands together to defeat one thing as a team, and there's not very many of those, there is a degree of separation between players and abilities and what they do. So there's always going to be opinion on what is right and wrong. Now, the role of the developers here is to ultimately to create a long-term sustainable game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're doing that for shareholders, you're doing that because you love the game, or you're doing that for the players, albeit the players probably won't thank you for it. The reality is a long-term sustainable series of game systems probably has to be or should be the aim.
I would agree with that. And I would also throw out there, for anybody who is a gamer, welcome changes, even if they screw things up. I will tell you a story from my past, mainly because I think Mizpah will probably have something very similar. I was playing a class in WoW, and my class got nerfed. I'm not going to mention what class, because all classes at one time or another have been through this.
Every class has been nerfed.
So I found myself in a really bad situation where my healing throughput was not what it needed to be because I am a healer. I spent a few weeks and figured out how to become as effective as I could be with what was thrown at me. And it made me a better player for it. It made me a much better player, because then they kind of reversed one of their changes, which changed a lot for me. And all of a sudden, I already had a certain style and a certain understanding and a certain methodology to overcome the obstacles presented to me. And people were just like, oh, what did you do? And I'm like, I just spent a couple weeks looking at how to do things that they broke. Take it as a challenge. If you're a gamer and you want to, have a real good challenge, take those patches as challenge.
I find the language interesting there, that they broke.
Yes.
They may not have considered it broken.
They admitted
They may have considered it.
They admitted it.
They may have considered it an iterative change. But the point being, okay, maybe something did break in that example.
Yeah, it did.
But I'm going to bet you that the language, they've broken it, has been used plenty of times, but actually it's not in the slightest little bit broken. It's actually a little bit more shiny, a little bit more fixed than it was last week.
So you're just saying that because your hunters have their AP balanced. But anyway, no, I'm just throwing it out there. We have a couple comments from the audience that I'd love to tackle into, etc. Something that Robots Hate Me, and I'm just going to pull this straight in because it's in relation to what we're discussing right now. But he says, Miss, I don't think that's fair. People know what they like. It can't just be quantified. I think if you keep tinkering with it until no one plays whatever anymore, then you've reached a threshold. Okay, that's an interesting statement.
Let me try and pull some context out of the question quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to come back to me on here, Robots.
Well, let me add his question that he's just thrown in, because this might actually help a little bit. The comment from him is he could never figure out why classes needed nerfing, when what was really needed is the other classes needed buffing to actually catch up. Now, this is going to be interesting, because someone could say, yeah, you should be buffing all the other classes to match it, but then all of the content that has been created for a certain threshold then needs to be readjusted, and that causes a lot of design choices.
You need to normalize.
That's a good choice of words.
One thing, I'll pick this because they've been quite public about it. WildStar have done recently is they have a bob. Now their bob is a target dummy of a certain sort of health, mitigation, all the rest of it, and they balance their player classes against how long it takes them to kill a Bob on a typical rotation. So they know how long it takes a spell slinger to kill Bob, they know how long it takes an Esper to kill Bob, and they're not necessarily trying to make rules the same, but they need to know where they are in a range. But interestingly, they can also then take a piece of something PvE and put it up against a Bob. Now, if you've got an outlier, if you then have the fact that a warrior can do something with kinetic strike and can kill a Bob in half the time of everything else, you don't necessarily want to double the output of everything else against the Bob, because then nothing is balanced anymore. All of a sudden, the quest that said, go kill 10 rats, the rats don't take as much killing. So there's a lot there to be looked at carefully. Having a benchmark, a standard for DPS, for healing, for damage taken, target damage is a simple example, but this principle can be extended massively.
Yeah.
Having a excuse me, a normalized set of outcomes to a given input, and then adjusting towards that seems to me to be a smarter thing to do. There is power creep over time. There is stat inflation over time. There always is. Well, there's inflation in monetary systems. Look at Warcraft, and we have now squished our stats.
Exactly.
Now, there's more reasons for that than simply balancing and patch notes. You've got the iteration, the whole treadmill gear approach and power over time is the major factor for that particular thing. But if every time something had to be changed, you made every single change upwards, you'd have got there an awful lot faster. Does that help answer the question?
I would believe so.
Then I shall go for the next question.
Well, this is a continuation from a previous thing that Robots Hates Me has a lot of questions, which is awesome. But, there have been other comments that we might want to tackle as well. But he says, I think a far more reaching question is the whining and complaining a small group of people make against X class. Is that a positive change for the game if the majority of the people playing the game couldn't give a flying cookie if the class underwent the change or not?
Okay. Here you are facing the might of the vocal minority.
The vocal minority that is actually like the loudest of them all.
And here's the thing, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's very easy to look at forums, to canvass popular opinion, and go, well, loads of people think this. But the reality is a lot of people are happy looking in, playing the game, and not writing on the forums. Those people that are passionate about an issue will represent it disproportionately. I've been there. I've done that. I've campaigned for things I like or don't like in given games, and I'm sure that I have been able to put across more than one person's worth of point of view. And I know that many people can do that. So we have to look at these things with a pinch of salt. It doesn't mean that because a ton of people are talking on the forum about something broken, that it's not actually broken. This is the other thing to bear in mind as well. But it means you have to balance opinion with metrics, statistics, information, and fact. Opinion is opinion.
Yep.
If a lot of people say, when you get to 30, my spell-slinging, range stealth, flying rogue can't kill anything, and then everyone logs out at level 30 and doesn't log back in that's playing that class, you can start to put the constituent part of fact against the constituent part of opinion and start to say, can I see a correlation here? Yet at the same time, if everyone's saying that the ranged, spell-slinging, plate-wearing, flying, stealthed rogue is underpowered, and 17 out of 18 new characters are stealthed, flying, plate-slinging, spell-wearing, cookie-eating rogues.
Plate-flinging and spell-wearing.
Then you start to realize that there is a dissimilarity between the popular opinion from people that are playing that class who want more and the rest of the world. So you have to keep these things in balance. Forums are not an ideal indicator, but they are a start point. Private testing groups where the feedback is not necessarily public removes part of the inherent biases towards putting things a certain way and may give you more accurate information. Having a balance between blind test groups that are not familiar with your game and those that are experts may give you a better set of results to compare. Having statistics created in-game by log-in, log-out, who kills what where, time to kill against certain mobs, how frequently something dies in a certain situation. All those metrics, again, give you information, and you have to put all this information together behind the scenes and come up with a conclusion, and then it's up to you how much you actually display of that conclusion later on.
Well, see, this is the thing. You know, we've talked a little bit about cognitive bias, which there are many, many forms of it. We've covered loss aversion. We've covered, belief bias, etc. There is one thing that we haven't quite touched on, and this is something that I think, unfortunately, a lot of people end up doing, and that is fallacies. As you mentioned correlation, and my brain just goes, yeah, you've got the people who sit there and go, X has occurred, creating Y, therefore P and Q. And the fallacy has absolutely no correlation whatsoever. Just because people don't like flinging cookies does not mean that people do not like cookies. Or flinging something else. You know, there are actual fallacies that can be made out of people's arguments and the type of arguments that they bring, and we really should tackle that at some point in time, but we don't exactly have the time to dig heavily into those kinds of concepts.
For those that want to be amused, and I cannot repeat this sketch on air, there is a Monty Python sketch involving that fallacy and a milkman. I strongly suggest people look it up, because it actually does the world's best example of explaining it.
Yes. Well, there you go. A little homework for everybody that's out there. And Robot Hates Me wants to know, is cold and flu season longer here than it is in the colonies? And apparently you need Vicks. I don't think you need Vicks.
I have tried many things. It's just not quite gone yet.
I think you need, and I may have actually moved this after I used it, but yeah, you need Chloraseptic. But yeah, just need something for your little throat. But on that note, there are a couple of things I will let you have, like, one final say and word on the patches. And then I have some very, very, very big news for everybody.
Okay, so final word on patches. Gamers are not daft. We are an analytical bunch with the power of Google at our disposal and the strength of mind of 100 individual opinions times 1,000 to the power of something. So, as a group, we're generally pretty switched on. You treat us like mushrooms, keep us in the dark and feed us, then we're not going to react very well to it. So that does mean you do have to communicate, perhaps more than you would do to some other demographics. And indeed, the medium of communication, online, internet, and all that jazz, lends itself to it. Give us more information, don't give us less. Give us your reasonings. Give us your desired outcomes before you actually even know what they're going to be. Because if you're open and transparent, then people will join with you to go, yeah, we thought that would be a good idea and it would do X and it didn't. What next? Whereas if all you do is turn around and go, we've done this, and we'll tell you why, then we'll turn around and tell you you were daft because we knew it wasn't going to do that in the first place because you didn't involve us in the process. Communicate. Be open. Be as open with what works and with what hasn't worked. It's not even necessarily a failure. It's a step in a process. But be clear with where you're trying to get to. Above all, give us the informations and do it before you make the changes. And you'll keep us happy. Gamers are easy to please.
No, they are not. Oh my gosh, that has got to be the biggest fallacy that's ever come out of your mouth, like ever. No, gamers are not easy to please. They really are not. I would personally just add it from a different direction. What you've asked for is you've asked for some information from the developers. I am a community person, so I'm going to make an appeal to the community. Accept patches when they come. Really accept them. Don't just go off and say, I'm never going to play this game again. Actually, take some time and look them over. If you're one of those gamers who really likes to challenge yourself, use it as a challenge. But give feedback and give good feedback. Not just, this sucks, I hate you, I'm going home, my toys need to be thrown out of the cot. Be clear. My turn. Shush. What is it with everybody? I get an opinion and everyone wants to interrupt me. Dang it. No.
More of an addition you'll actually agree to.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
And do not do what we've seen some people do in COD and other games, where a developer makes a change that's part of a systematic change that an entire team have been working on for months, and then proceed to issue threats against them, their family, and all they hold dear. They are developers. They are doing a job. They are making changes for a reason. And if your reaction is to react with that sort of vitriol and personal attack, I don't want you associated with the gaming community in any way, shape, or form. I'd rather you were locked in a prison cell.
I agree.
That was all.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I was going to get there, but that's okay. I'll let you have that one. But yes, seriously, it's okay to have an opinion. In fact, I want everyone to have an opinion. You're not always going to agree with me. You're not always going to agree with Mizpah. In fact, there will probably be more times than not where you completely and utterly disagree with the two of us. And honestly, that's okay. Our ability to have differing opinions is what allows us to have a very rich culture, especially in gaming. However, just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean that they should be a target for that kind of violence and that kind of verbal abuse. In fact, that's actually really uncool. So if you have an opinion, bring it out, but do so in a respectful manner. And like I said, patch notes, they're just one more challenge for you. Can you overcome the changes that have been wrought? And if you can, that'll make you a better player. If you can't, and there is a fundamental design problem, you now have proof to back up why, instead of just, this isn't right. So, but that stuff. Apparently your mute button needs to be closer, Mizpah. Oh, I've got a mute button for Mizpah. How about if I use it? No, I'm not going to be that mean. Right, so are you ready for the big news?
Is there big news?
There is big news. I have a couple bits of big news, and I've got some crazy stuff. So the question becomes, do you want the big news or crazy stuff?
Well, the crazy stuff is special, so that can wait till after the big news.
Okay, if you so would like to do it that way. Big news, here it is. Like we said at the very start of this show, guys, this is our 100th show across 7 shows that have started at odd different times, even though this is episode 31. We've got episode 21 coming up of the campfire. Top Draw's got episodes coming up on Saturday. We've got episodes coming up about the Blizzard forecast, the Data Mine, and Cosmotronic, as well as the MMOBuff perspective. All together, it's 100! Yay!
And I have a prop, so keep talking. I shall be back.
Okay. So, with this in mind, Swagzilla, that would be me, has decided to give away a box of swag. What's in it? T-shirts, bags, lanyards, cards, codes, random stuff. I have swag, and I want to give it away. I have mini swag, handle it kind of situations. So, yes, it is time for me to give swag away. Now, how am I going to do this? This is literally for the live viewers because you guys, you keep us going to start out with. And for you to watch us on YouTube, we absolutely love you. We just wish we could get you during the live show so that you could actually throw your questions at us during our shows. But yes, here's the deal. By tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., people who have sent to me at voice@MMOBuff.TV email address suggestions for next week's MMO Buff podcast show. Remember, this is where we can talk about anything game related, anything MMO related, anything at all. And you want us to debate things out, discuss things, or what have you. Send me an idea for it by 8 a.m. British time tomorrow to that mailbox, and you'll be entered. If we pick your topic, you are going to get a swag box. And I'm not talking a swag box. I'm talking a swag box. It's going to be it's going to be full of swag. So, what's your prop?
Well, did you say it was episode number 100?
I did.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yay! Poppers!
We have more of those.
Maybe we'll throw them into the swag box.
100 episodes.
Woohoo!
Special effects and everything.
Yes. Woo. So yes, please, if you have an idea of what you would like for us to discuss, and believe me, we can go back and revisit topics, but if you want us to do that, you need to bring us a question that digs a little deeper. Now, I am super duper excited because we have been going on for several months now, and we are getting bigger and bigger. And, you know, we've very recently, luckily, been partnered with Twitch. So as a reminder for those of you, please, if you really like what we're doing, just share it out to everybody who you can. The more people who we get involved and who can bring us ideas, topics, debates, and discussions, the better. We definitely want to do amazing things. But if you actually are one of those individuals who highly, highly, highly wants to support us, there is the ability to do so by actually subscribing to us. And, yeah. That is with the little button down there, monthly subscription. That's up to you. I'm not going to force anyone.
Is just let everyone know we're here.
Like I said, that's the most important one.
People watching.
Yeah, have more people telling me that I am right and Mizpah is wrong. That's really what we need. Ooh. Team Pseudo.
Or the other way around.
Team Pseudo. Team Pseudo all the way. I can be on Team Mizpah when you cook, because you cook relatively well.
I only cook for Team Mizpah. Team Pseudo, they don't get anything.
That's okay. I have plushies. So yeah. I don't know.
You can't roast a plushie.
Yeah.
Well, I could try.
Well, we did have that lovely wedding that had roasted Rousdower for dinner. But anyway, and if you don't want to talk about, definitely check out my Twitter because there's pictures from it. However, let me tell you guys what's coming up with the next week, because we've got some big things occurring this week. You ready for this? So tomorrow on the Campfire, which is our show all about community, all about building strong community inside the gaming world, with Blank Space, Screenager, and myself, we have a special guest. Her name is Starslayer. And if you are familiar with her, I would not be surprised. Her name is C.G. Thornton. She has been around in the gaming world for quite a bit of time. Check out starslayer.com with a 3 and the before for the E in Slayer. Check her out. She is supposed to be joining us for the Campfire tomorrow. She has done PR. She's done professional gaming. And we are going to be having her join us on the Campfire. Exciting. Wednesday, we have the Blizzard Forecast. Now, the Blizzard Forecast is probably our biggest hosted show out there because there are so many Blizzard IPs out there. So the Blizzard Forecast contains Mizpah, Blank Space, Parv from Youngscast. Someone had asked earlier today, Parv's a host? Yes, he is on the Blizzard Forecast.
Only on Wednesdays.
Hearth Trollden, who is, if you have not had a chance to watch our quick bite from the last week's Top Draw Blizzard forecast, it is so well worth it because you see an entirely different side of Hearth Trollton, especially since he's a mad bomber. You will totally get what I mean if you watch that like 2.5 minutes on YouTube. So worth it. Go check it out. But you have Hearth Trollton involved, Dr. Marshmallows, our TCG guru, myself. That is our biggest, like, in-your-face, hostedly show out there.
We're just about to announce another host as well.
Yes, which we have to keep our mouths shut on, but there you go. Now, those all start at 8 p.m. British time. Thursday, 1 p.m. British time, we have our game development show for game developers by game developers called The Data Mine. Danny...
You don't have to be a game developer to watch it.
No, you do not. Because, in fact, if you are interested in any way, shape, or form about game development, you need to totally check it out. So here's the deal. Danny has a game that has just basically been purchased by a publisher, and he's getting it out there. And he wanted to do a basically group therapy for game developers. Independent or AAA, it makes no difference. And this concept came to me. I'm like, oh, yes. This is great because it's another community-based thing. I mean, come on, guys. I'm community. I'm all about helping people out. And the Data Mine was formed. Now, our last episode, we revealed the fact that we're going to be doing code and gaming jams, which means coming up in the next couple of months, there will be a 48-hour start to finish, start with concept, build game, have game at end of weekend, and it will be live streamed through Twitch. It'll be done for charity. We are going to put people together, and we're going to see what can come out of these game jams. And that is a big, this is, if you do artwork, come in. If you do 3D modeling, come in. If you have an idea about a game engine, come in. But if you don't have any real skill set and you're unsure of what to do, watch the first episode. It is on YouTube right now because we give a lot of really good advice. But this week we've got something big. We have the CEO of Ukie, ukie.info, coming. They are an advocacy support group for game developers here in the United Kingdom. And boy, are there a lot of things that we can talk about. Everything from legal things like, what does it mean when you have something rated PEGI 13? Does it really have some kind of implication? What do developers need to go through? Are there really myths about game development that we don't know about? These are the people who are fighting for the game developers, period. And we've got the CEO joining us. I am really looking forward to this. So if you have questions or anything you want to ask, get them in, voice at MMOBuff.TV. That's Thursday. Then we go back to our normal, regularly scheduled time at 8 p.m. The Cosmotronic is back, and it is the last Cosmotronic pre-game live.
Not the last Cosmotronic. Cosmotronic's not going anywhere.
Oh, no. In fact, we're going to be there every Friday discussing WildStar, and it is going to be intense because we're no longer going to be doing theoreticals. We'll be doing practicals. Hopefully you're prepared for that. You may need a license to drive.
And you will find that in the week following launch, of course, which is coming up very, very soon, there might just be an awful lot of streaming going on.
Yeah, there might.
Whilst I try to not be too far behind Pseudo by the time we get to Friday.
You are so not going to be able to keep up with me.
So what happens if I'm ahead of you on levels by Friday?
This Friday or next Friday? Because you sure as heck ain't getting anywhere this Friday.
I did mean next.
Okay, next Friday, I'll tell you what. You and I will make a quote-unquote gentleman-woman agreement, bet, and we will put something on the line on Cosmotronic. Everyone will just have to watch it in order to see what it is that we put on the line.
We can do that.
Oh, yes. Them's fighting words, mister. So that's Cosmotronic. Saturday, we have Top Draw, where we're going to be continuing to look at Battle for Gia, which is a really interesting, complicated, but amazingly cool concept for a card game. And then next week, Mizpah is back. And I am back to beat up each other as we enter the ring. Are you ready? Okay. And at that point in time, we will reveal who it is that has won the swag pack of Doom from Swagzilla for our 100th episode on MMOBuff.
So there you have it. 100 shows of approximately 1 hour-ish long each. Probably a little more by that if you take it on average. Across all the stuff that we do, but we wouldn't be doing anything at all if it wasn't you guys listening, watching, tuning in, hurling brickbats and bouquets, passing us questions, or otherwise walking up to me in a FedEx in the States, tapping on the shoulder and going, I know you!
I have had
very
some...
strange indeed.
I'm still not used to that. I don't think I ever will be, and I don't ever want to be used to it. Because I consider myself a passionate gamer whose passion starts with community, and it's through games that I experience community. And that is how I always want to be viewed. And if I ever lose that love, something's wrong with me. Something's seriously wrong with me.
Now, we've just been asked, do we know which server Enigma is rolling on? No. We're waiting for final list and see exactly what's happening with server choices. We'll be talking about that on Friday.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So let's see. Oh, thank you, Zex. I've got one heck of a compliment from you. I'm now going to start blushing horribly on screen.
I'm so offended, Zex. I'm sorry.
I am... oh, my God. Am I...
I think it's time to round off the 100th show.
Yeah.
Are we done?
We are done. We're done. I'm excited. Peggy 12.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you, folks. Thank you all. Time to say goodbye.
Sadly. I will see you all tomorrow on the campfire as we dig into crazy things. Hearts.
And this is Mizpah. Signing off. Look at that shot. Perfect.
And we caught it on camera. Mizpah, toodle pip, dude. Toodle pip. Like for the reals. YOLO and all that other stuff. Toodle pip.